We mentioned Bill Gates there and billionaires. I often see this argument come up in podcasts, debates lately, and it's this question: is it immoral to be a billionaire and hold so much of the world's wealth when others are in poverty? Or, in your opinion, does it boil down to that case by case analysis of what they do with the money?
Yeah, I think you have to distinguish two separate questions, right? One question is, should we have an economic system and a tax system in which it's possible to become and remain a billionaire? And I think there's a very good case for saying, no, we should not. We should have different kinds of economies and different kinds of tax systems that make sure that wealth is more evenly distributed. So that's one question, and that's my answer to that. But a separate question is, suppose we don't have a system that makes it impossible to become a billionaire. Suppose we have a system which in fact means that there are quite a few billionaires and some who are, billionaires 10 times, even 50 times. I think Jeff Bezos may be getting around 100 times over. So in that situation, is it immoral to be a billionaire? No, I think the answer is it depends on what you do with your billions. And if what you do with your billions is think carefully about how best to use them to do the most good in the world, then you're not doing anything immoral. And I think Bill Gates has done that. There are others. For example, Dustin Moskovitz and Carrie Tuna are a couple who are billionaires because Dustin Moskovitz was one of the co-founders of Facebook, and he's also gone on and with other computer startups that have been successful. So they started a foundation called Good Ventures, and they're funding a project called Open Philanthropy, which is doing research on this question of how can we do the most good with our resources. So basically the effective altruism question. And that's a very serious question. There's lots of research that you can do to find the answers and to think about the answers. So they are giving away lots of money. As far as I know, they've still got $1 billion or more, so they're still billionaires. But I think they're going about it the right way in terms of getting rid of that, doing the most good with it. And I'm sure they'll end up not being billionaires anymore because they've given away the great majority of what they had.
A guy you mentioned there, you mentioned Jeff Bezos, obviously the richest man on the planet, holds most of the wealth, but obviously a disgustingly rich man. And there are questions around his approach to taxes. If there's loopholes he can find, he takes them. But I was speaking to a friend about Jeff Bezos the other week, and they said that they didn't see a problem with it because even though he's a very rich man, he provides a service that in its own way helps a lot of people. They posed the argument that, if their child all of a sudden needed, new shoes for school tomorrow, they could use his service and they could acquire them within, hours. It could be at their door the next day. And that, in that way that he does help a lot of people. Where do you weigh in on Jeff Bezos? And in his case, is what he does in terms of tax, even though it's legal, is that immoral?
I don't think we should, try to cut corners with tax. I think taxation is a responsibility that everybody should pay. We all use government services. We all need things that the government provides. And I think we should not feel that this is money that we have to try and somehow evade paying, but rather that we should pay up as our share of it, and that share should be not, as I say, artificially reduced by clever tax dodgers. On the other hand, and there are other things you could criticize Jeff Bezos for. There are questions about what workers are paid in working for Amazon, and perhaps that could be changed too. And the third thing I would say is that even if you accept that Amazon does provide valuable services, and I agree with that, I think it does. I think it's made various things much more accessible to people. We still have to ask, what is he doing with his money? Now, he has become more sensitive, perhaps, to the criticism that he had in the past not been donating much of it to good causes. And he has started donating to issues like climate change, for example, which I agree is a very important issue. But I think it's still a much smaller fraction of his wealth than Buffett or Gates or Moskowitz and Tuna have donated. So I'd like to see him doing much more, and I'd like to see him thinking perhaps more carefully about how it does the most good.